Hello and welcome to Real Obscure. My name is Kevin H. Shaw, and in tonight's episode, we're going off on a saucy space adventure into the distant future and the uncharted depths of the galaxy, where we'll encounter bitey robot dolls, leather men, an angel, and more costume changes than a Taylor Swift concert. From 1968, it's the Kinky comic book adventure, Barbarella. Barbarella is based on the character created by the French writer and artist Jean-Claude Forest. A few years prior to the comic's publication, the French government, worried by the influence of American-style comic books, had introduced a number of guidelines regarding the production of comics featuring material that could be considered obscene. So, as you can imagine, the raunchy and erotic adventures of Barbarella, first serialised in the magazine V in 1964, proved to be controversial. But when a graphic novel that collected the instalments was later published, it proved to be a massive success, despite the moral outrage it had allegedly caused. Indeed, the comic proved so popular that, in the late 60s, mega producer Dino De Laurentiis acquired the rights to the character, and this film is the result. The movie was directed by Roger Vadim. Vadim was a writer, producer and director who is probably best known for his breakout hit And God Created Woman in 1956, which brought not only him but also his star, and then wife, Brigitte Bardot, worldwide recognition. He followed this up with a string of successful movies, including an adaptation of Dangerous Liaisons, and no, I'm not going to attempt any more French pronunciations, because that killed my episode on the Grapes of Death, Blood and Roses, an adaptation of Le Farnou's Camilla, the controversial Circle of Love, in which his soon-to-be wife Jane Fonda appeared nude, a first for a mainstream American actor, and tonight's movie, Barbarella. Written by Terry Southern of Dr. Strangelove, Easy Rider and Casino Royale fame, with additional script and writing by another 6 writers, and those are just the ones who are credited, which includes Roger Vadim himself and horror stalwart Tudor Gates. The adaptation was also supervised by the comic's creator, Jean-Claude Forest. Given how many people were involved in the writing process, it's surprising to find that it actually does mostly make sense. So, what's it all about? The movie opens with probably one of the most iconic scenes in movie history, or at least that involves zero gravity and nudity. We see a space-suited figure floating inside a spaceship, and, to the strains of a very groovy bossa nova theme tune, the astronaut slowly begins to undress, revealing it to be our protagonist, Barbarella. It's a scene that's appeared in countless homages and spoofs, with everyone from Kylie Minogue and Ariana Grande to Radiohead, yes, really, doing their take on this sequence in one form or another. And if you're wondering how they pulled it off, watch it. That scene was shot from above, with Barbarella simply lying on a sheet of clear perspex and then rolling around on it. For such a humble effect, it works really well, as for years I always assumed it was done with wires or really good blue screen. But now you know. And knowing is half the battle. Anyway, Barbarella is played by Jane Fonda, the daughter of Henry Fonda and brother of Peter Fonda, who appeared in my earlier episode covering Race with the Devil. Jane found success as both a stage and screen actor, appearing in a Broadway production of There Was a Little Girl in 1960, for which she received a Tony Award nomination, and that same year saw her film debut, Tall Story. Her list of credits is so long that it has its own Wikipedia page, with over 50 entries, including Cat Ballou, Barefoot in the Park, They Shoot Horses Don't They, Clute, the movie that the worst nightclub in Europe was named after, Fun with Dick and Jane, The China Syndrome, 9 to 5, on Golden Pond, in which she appears with her real-life father Henry Fonda, and many, many more. Her workout video was also a cultural phenomenon, being the first non-movie VHS title to ever top the charts, and it opened up the world of home fitness videos with a slew of imitators. Feel the burn, no pain, no gain, and leg warmers? You can thank Fonda for that. Anyway, back to the movie. Barbarella is contacted by the President of the United Earth, who charges her with a mission. A young scientist, Duran Duran, yes, that's where the band take their name from, has gone missing. As the inventor of the positronic ray, a weapon that could incite a war, it is vital he is recovered, and so Barbarella heads off into uncharted space in an attempt to locate the missing scientist. To aid her, the President sends a variety of devices, including a Duran Duran detector, a universal translator in the form of a tongue box, stop laughing at the back, and weapons from Earth's museums, because everybody is now a pacifist. Caught in a magnetic storm, which is a glorious bit of psychedelia, her ship is damaged and forced to crash land on Tau Ceti's planet 16. When she is captured by a group of children, she is taken by them to the remains of a spaceship, which she realises is that of Duran Duran. Inside, she finds herself surrounded by feral space children, who amuse themselves by setting their very creepy, and even bitier, robot dolls on her. It's a superb scene with everybody's favourite bête noirs, creepy kids and creepy dolls front and centre, and it showcases the amazing production design in this movie. The whole movie uses an odd and alien visual language, where video screens are just as likely to be part of a statue as they are a sphere filled with flashing lights, where weapons bear little resemblance to contemporary firearms, and where clothes are as much art as they are practical. All I can describe it as is Kinky Dune. Anyway, Barbarella is rescued from the killer dolls by Mark Hand, played by the Italian actor Ugo Tognazzi, a catchman who patrols the ice wastes and forests of Weir, rounding up errant children to hand over to the authorities. He offers to repair her ship, and as they're travelling to the downed spacecraft in his ice sled, Barbarella offers her thanks to him and asks how she can repair him. And so he asks if they can make love, but is then confused when she offers him the pill, aka an exaltation transference pellet, which is how Earth people now make love in a non-physical manner, but only when their psychocardiograms are in perfect confluence, and then full rapport is achieved by touching hands. And yes, I told you this movie was iconic, and this form of lovemaking without actual contact certainly seems to be what's being referenced in The Demolition Man. Anyway, when Mark explains he wants to do it the old-fashioned way, Barbarella is surprised because nobody's done that in centuries, because it was deemed distracting. However, she eventually acquiesces and lies motionless on his ice ship's bed, waiting for him to join her. And then there's a fantastic bit of visual humour where Mark Hand peels off his fursuit, only to reveal he's almost as furry underneath. The ice ship circles around to the strains of another very groovy bit of brass and bossa nova beats before they arrive at the crash site, where Mark Hand repairs her ship while Barbarella wanders around in a state of post-coital bliss. However, her ship was repaired backwards, so when she tries to ascend, the ship instead plunges groundward. Activating the turret screw, she descends under the planet's surface, eventually arriving in the labyrinth, a strange stone maze where, we discover, those exiled by the great tyrant are banished to, and where it's implied they fade and become part of the maze itself. I don't really know, it's not explained, it's very weird and very surreal, and I love it. It's here that she meets the angelic Pygar, the last of the ornithanthropes, who takes her to Professor Ping, the unofficial leader of the people of the labyrinth and an expert on various scientific matters. Pygar is played by John Philip Law. After his breakout role in 1966's The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming, he appeared in a number of cult movies, including the title role in Danger Diabolique, Night Train to Terror, Space Mutiny and Alienator, but is probably best known for portraying Sinbad in The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, which I really need to do an episode on. Professor Ping is played by Marcel Marceau. A world-renowned mime artist, Marceau, in a twist of irony, plays one of the most verbose characters in the movie, providing exposition on a number of plot points. And a fun fact, he actually released an album, The Best of Marcel Marceau, which is 40 minutes of silence, with a couple of breaks for applause. Eat your heart out, John Cage. When Barbarella asks Pygar to fly her to the city of Sogo, he explains that he has lost the will to do so. However, while Professor Ping is repairing Barbarella's ship, she finds a way to restore his will, and so the two of them head into Sogo in search of Duran Duran. After a series of misadventures with the denizens of Sogo, a wretched hive of scum and villainy, they find themselves trapped in a chamber filled with a strange goo-like substance, but are rescued by the concierge, played by Milo O'Shea. O'Shea was an Irish-born actor and star of stage, cinema and television, perhaps best known for his roles in Carry On Cabby, 1967's Ulysses, Digby the World's Biggest Dog, and Theatre of Blood. He also appeared in episodes of Journey to the Unknown, Out of the Unknown, No Relation, plus Who's the Boss, Golden Girls, Frasier, and The West Wing. The ooze, as the concierge explains, is the Mathmos, a living entity that powers the city of Sogo, where it both causes and feeds on sin and depravity and the flesh of the wicked, because Sogo is a composite of Sodom and Gomorrah. Anyway, while Barbarella is distracted by this explanation, Pygar is netted and abducted. The concierge meanwhile delivers Barbarella to the very psychedelic and terminally groovy court of the Great Tyrant, aka the Black Queen, played by Anita Pallenberg. An actor and model, Pallenberg was part of Andy Warhol's entourage at the factory, but is probably best known for her association with the Rolling Stones, acting as a muse to the band and also being involved in romantic relationships with Brian Jones and later Keith Richards. She also appeared in the experimental gangster movie Performance with Mick Jagger, a movie that is sampled in Big Audio Dynamite's tribute to the work of director Nicholas Roeg, E=MC². Barbarella finds Pygar hanging in the court and, pulling a pistol she previously hid in Pygar's loincloth, snatches up the Great Tyrant and threatens to kill her. But when the concierge notices Barbarella's power supply is depleted and the weapon is now useless, she is captured and placed in a cage filled with birds, who immediately begin to attack her. However, she is able to escape when she falls through a trapdoor and arrives in the headquarters of Dildano, leader of the rebellion. Dildano is played by David Hemmings. Fans of Real Obscure will probably know him from Dario Argento's Deep Red, but he also appeared in Blow Up, Equilibrium and Gladiator. He was also a successful director of movies, including Harlequin and Survivor, and on a variety of TV shows, including Quantum Leap, The A-Team and Magnum P.I. It's a fantastic turn from Hemmings, who absolutely nails the well-meaning but utterly useless Dildano in a superb comic performance, with some genuinely funny wordplay and physical comedy. Of particular note is his expression when he and Barbarella use an exaltation transference pellet, which leaves him looking like a mustached drop-dead Fred. He agrees to form an alliance with Barbarella, requesting the use of her weapons cache in return for giving her the invisible secret key to the Black Queen's Chamber of Dreams, which he then hangs around her secret neck. I'm not sure if that was a blooper they just left in or whether it's intentional, but it's a great bit of comedy either way. And so, with a plan in place and the secret key around her secret neck, she heads off to confront the Black Queen. Will Barbarella succeed and defeat her? Will she be able to rescue Pygar? And how many more costume changes will she have? Well, we'll find out now as we enter the spoiler zone. Before she can reach the dream chamber, she's caught by the concierge, who decrees she is to be put to death and so places her within his excessive machine, an organ of the musical type that causes terminal arousal. However, Barbarella is able to not only withstand the machine, but is so sensual a being that she causes the device to explode. On a side note, apparently Vadim did not tell the actors the machine's reaction would be so excessive, and they were genuinely concerned that they'd somehow destroyed the prop. As the concierge passes over her discarded equipment, he triggers the scanner she was given by the President of Earth, revealing he is in fact Duran Duran. Living with such sinful excesses caused by the Mathmos has caused him to age prematurely, but also has opened his eyes to the pleasures of ultimate evil. When he reveals that he has completed the positronic ray but cannot use it until he overthrows the Great Tyrant, Barbarella strikes a deal to enter the Chamber of Dreams in return for her life. Duran Duran, however, being evil, Natch, double-crosses her, locking her inside the Chamber of Dreams with the Black Queen, as he believes the Mathmos will not tolerate two people in the chamber and will destroy both. Duran Duran declares himself the new Great Tyrant, but before his coronation can be completed, the rebels, led by Professor Ping and Dildano, launch an attack on Sogo. After his forces are defeated by the rebels, Duran Duran unleashes the destructive power of the positronic ray. As a horrified Barbarella watches from the Black Queen's chamber, she sees Professor Ping and Dildano blasted into the fourth dimension, never to return. The Black Queen, however, counters with her secret weapon, releasing the Mathmos, flooding the city of Sogo and destroying both Duran Duran and his positronic ray. However, Barbarella's goodness is too much for the Mathmos, which places her and the Black Queen in a bubble to protect itself from her purity, before vomiting them both to the surface. Here they find Pygar, who was fed to the Mathmos but, like Barbarella, is too good for it to devour, and as Pygar recovers, he carries both Barbarella and the Black Queen away to her ship. Pygar, Barbarella asks, "Why did you save her after all the terrible things she did to you?" To which Pygar replies, "An angel has no memory." And so the three fly off together as the end credits roll. Visually, Barbarella is unlike anything you'll have seen before. Mixing Dadaism, psychedelia and futurism, it's a heady hodgepodge of weird juxtapositions that give the movie its own filmic identity. As I mentioned earlier, it's so strange and alien, with designs that defy the general norms. Her ship's controls look more like a musical instrument than a navigation panel. The spaceship's interior is lined with shagpile carpet, with Alfie the computer's panel of moving pieces and classical paintings lining the walls. And then there's the costumes. Based on designs by Paco Not the Beast Rabanne, they're a mix of futuristic plastics and metals combined with classical Roman and Greek clothing, often sexualized, but also sometimes just a very, very weird combination of textiles and textures. And it's also worth noting that despite the idea that Barbarella is there as simply eye candy, many of the male characters also wear fetishistic and revealing clothing just as out there as hers. Hell, Pygar spends the entire movie dressed in little more than a loincloth and baby oil. Now, despite Vadim's claims that he wanted to tell a fun, sexy space adventure, the movie has a full-on counterculture vibe to it. Barbarella and the President of Earth greet each other with the salute of love. The United Earth government exists in a state of peace, having engaged in no wars for centuries. And when the President informs Barbarella that Duran Duran could start a war, she asks, "You mean selfish competition?" To which he replies, "I mean war. Bloody conflict between entire tribes." The people of the labyrinth are literal lotus eaters, consuming the insubstantial yet expensive blooms because it pleases the Black Queen to see them do so, which I'm sure is probably a metaphor for consumerism. And Pygar is the most chilled out flower child you could ever meet, even going so far as to forgive the woman who was responsible for his blindness. And then there's Barbarella's liberated approach to all things sexual. In an interview, Fonda stated that the character wasn't sexually liberated because that implied she was fighting against a system that constrained her, when she'd actually been born into a world where she already had freedom and equality. She's a constant innocent who feels no shame or guilt over her various encounters, and is very much the herald of the real-world sexual revolution that was going on at the time. Sure, it's always been fine for James Bond to shag his way across Europe, but if a woman did that, well, she would be branded with all kinds of names. So it's great to see a character doing just that without any kind of hang-ups or judgment. Now sadly, Fonda admitted she didn't actually enjoy the filming of Barbarella. Vadim was drinking heavily and making odd choices in filming, and she suffered from body image issues and had an eating disorder. She also felt the character was exploiting her sexuality and wasn't relevant to contemporary social issues or politics. Now, very gently and slowly stepping into the minefield of mansplaining, and with the proviso that I would never attempt to tell Jane Fonda what Jane Fonda thinks, and I know I should stop here because no matter what I say at this point it's going to anger a number of people, but from my perspective I'd say that as a modern viewer I see a number of relevant social issues in this movie, and also being as much of a pro-feminist as a male can be, I find Barbarella very much an icon of an early form of feminism. She has her own motives and agency. She enjoys sex without shame or hang-ups, and although yes, she does sometimes depend on others to be rescued, although you could argue that the bonds she creates with these characters who do help her is as much a strength as simple brute force is, she's also a woman of action, such as when she, with Pygar providing transport, single-handedly wipes out the Great Tyrant's air fleet. Or maybe the whole thing is indeed just a silly, sexy joke, and I'm reading far too much into it in an attempt to justify my enjoyment of it. Anyway, on that note, thanks for listening, and I'll see you all on the next episode of Real Obscure. This episode of Real Obscure was written, produced and brought into perfect confluence by me, Kevin H. Shaw. If you enjoyed the episode, then please like, share and subscribe. And be sure to stick around for the end titles trivia, where I'll include a few facts I couldn't fit into the main show. If you'd like to support Real Obscure financially, you can make a one-time donation using the thank option below this video. If you enjoyed this episode, then please comment below or send your thoughts to hellorealobscure@gmail.com, and I'm on Blue Sky using the handle @RealObscurePod. Barbarella is copyright 1968. All content here is used for educational and commentary purposes under Section 107 of the Copyright Act Fair Use, and remains the property of the respective copyright holders. Presented here for the purposes of commentary, critique and discussion. No copyright infringement is intended, so please don't sue me or make me watch another Ariana Grande video.